Very much for all being here. I'll certainly get an opportunity just now to interact with you. But before I do that, I think all the secretaries and the chief economic advisor are also here. So they've been working overtime on all the budget proposal. So I'm first going to request each one of them to make a very brief comment in relation to the subject matter which is within their respective department. I think Mr. Wattle can start.
Thank you, sir. So we all heard your speech in the Parliament. I will just make a few points about three key areas which will be perhaps a matter of interest to all the media persons present over here. Number one, the fiscal framework. Number two, the capital expenditure by the centre. And a short comment on the major subsidies. Well, as was stated in the budget speech, for this year, this financial year, we are going to achieve the 3.9% fiscal deficit target. It has been done in a situation where we have not applied any expenditure cuts across departments. In fact, the revised estimates of the budget have been higher than what was contemplated at the beginning of the year, which is a first of its kind after many years. As far as the coming fiscal is concerned, the credibility and optimality arguments for adhering to the 3.5% of the GDP fiscal deficit have also been embedded in our exercise. We are going to adhere to it, and we have the past credibility of doing so. Even though it was difficult, we have taken a more national view and have honored our commitment to ensure that crowding out in the economy is minimized and domestic savings are available to the private sector for investments. Going forward, there will be, as far as the medium-term fiscal framework is concerned, it will be looked into because, as was mentioned in the budget speech, there is a debate about it's been 10 years old and it's performed well, the Act, and how we move forward is something will be looked into. But I may just say that we will have to look at issues of debt sustainability in terms of both stock and flow dynamics, and also, as I said, the net effect on growth through the fine balance between crowding out and crowding in of savings. This new framework does not mean that we are going to do away with fiscal balancing. The whole thing has to be looked at perhaps from a more national point of view, where we also look at fiscal deficits of states and see the whole thing more in a more combined or a holistic manner. But that will be something for this committee to decide. The other feature which I just wanted to mention to all of you is regarding the percentage of capital expenditure, which we will sustain at around 12% of the GDP. And here, while you read the document, the budget documents, you should not just look at the direct capex of the central government, but you should also see at the capex transfer to the states from the center, which is basically, if you minus the revenue deficit and the ERD, the effective revenue deficit, you will get that figure. And you will find that this is a substantial figure, and Last year we had attained around, or this year we are going to attain around 12%, and we are going to sustain it at that level. And the other interesting feature will be that the internal and extra budgetary resources, which is basically money coming in from the public enterprises and state-run units, that is going to be substantially increased. In the estimates of 16-17, major subsidies have been estimated around 2.3 lakh crores. That's food, fertilizer, and petroleum. We are taking a large number of measures basically to see that this amount which is being given to subsidy is efficiently spent, wastages are contained, and in this context, we will make all endeavors to see that as a percentage of GDP, these subsidies remain below 1.6% of the GDP. They were, in the year 2013-14, had crossed 2.15% of the GDP, and in the last one and a half years, they have come down substantially, and which is a good thing. So, in conclusion, I may just say that the past performance from the expenditure management point of view and the quality of expenditure of the department of the government has been very good, and we will continue this process in the coming year with an emphasis on the agricultural sector, on equity, and on growth. Thank you.
Secretary, Economic Affairs.
Good afternoon. Overall, if I have to describe the budget, it's a transformative budget, it's a credible budget. I would like to highlight 3 quick points. One is that while maintaining the fiscal deficit for next year at 3.5%, we have also ensured that government borrowing requirement from the market is kept at a minimal level. It's 4.2 lakh crores of rupees. While deciding this number and while working on the fiscal deficit target, we have taken into consideration issues of debt sustainability, the medium-term and long-term debt sustainability of the government, the space that is available in the market for government borrowing so that we leave adequate resources for the private sector, and the emphasis and the necessity to ensure that government borrowings are done in a very non-disruptive manner without taking away a lot of resources from the market, and we should ensure that there is enough for the private sector requirement also. The second aspect of the budget to be noted is that it has taken a very balanced approach, and it has focused on all the major challenges and the key problem areas which the economy, the macroeconomy today faces. Priority, therefore, has been given to issues in agriculture, rural development, infrastructure, spending on roads, railways, the social sector, and similar other areas. These are the major challenging areas today facing the economy, and they have been addressed very significantly. The third aspect I would like to highlight is that there are certain measures which is already, you must be aware, but just to put things in the perspective, I think there are certain structural reform measures. The first and foremost is the reforms in the transport sector, in the passenger segment. The entire system is being opening up, and there is a lot of opportunities available to improve the quality of transport for the public, the quality of road transport for the public, bring in new investments, create new jobs, and increase the overall efficiency of that sector. Targeted disbursement of subsidy by way of the Aadhaar legislation, again, is a huge game changer, and that will bring a lot of it will prevent a lot of leakage and what I may call as a transmission loss, which takes place while the government subsidies and financial benefits are transmitted to the people who actually deserve it. There is the code on the financial resolution. There is a code on the resolution of the financial companies. The bankruptcy law is already before the Parliament. Together with the bankruptcy law, this legislation, the code on resolution of financial firms, They will fill up a systemic vacuum that exists in our economy today with regard to resolution of companies and financial institutions which are in distress. They will provide a framework for quick resolution and for quick revival, quick resolution, or for quick liquidation as the case may be. But the focus obviously will be on revival. So there are a number of measures like that. I don't want to take more time on that. So the budget has also given a lot of focus on structural reforms. We need to continue with the pace of reforms if we have to go back to 8% plus in the next few years. Thank you.
Dr. Adya, the Revenue Secretary.
Thank you, sir. My first request to all the media persons is that please go through the annexure to the budget speech, because many of the changes we have made in the indirect tax side and extensive changes have been made in the indirect tax side, which affects the domestic competitiveness of Indian industry. Those changes are hidden in the annexure. So please go through the changes which are made in the indirect side in the annexure. The second thing is that you would be wondering that how is it that in spite of giving additional allocation of 15% on the plan side, and also meeting the responsibility of OROP and pay commission, how is it that the finance minister has achieved this 3.5% deficit? Let me tell you that the target for revenue, tax revenue, which we have set, are absolutely realistic. I'll just give you some numbers. The RE figure of the current year, the target achievement we expect is 17% as per the revised estimate. So we are expecting a growth rate of 17% in the current year, growth rate in the tax revenue. As against that, the target we have set for the next year is 11.76% only. So it is a very modest target of revenue collection that we have set for ourselves. So it is not a hyped up figure, number one. In terms of absolute number, we have set a target of 16.25 lakh crore for tax revenue. And we expect in indirect tax a growth rate of 10.8% and in direct tax 12.63%. That will be the growth rate expected. We are expecting a lower growth rate in corporate income tax, which will be 9.07%. In case of personal income tax, we are expecting an 18% growth rate in personal income tax. Now, these are some of the figures I wanted to give you. Couple of things. One is the income declaration scheme, what we call IDS. Now, that IDS is different from all other schemes in the past. As you know, in the past, there have been so many VDIS schemes in the past, but the most popular and the most yielding VDIS scheme was of 1997, wherein the government got about 9,000 crore plus as tax income. Now, this scheme is different from all other schemes in the sense that in other schemes, there was no extra amount taken apart from 30% tax rate. In 97 scheme, they said that you, if you are an individual, pay 30% and that's it. And if you are a company, pay 35% and that's it. But normally companies don't declare the black money, only the individuals declare. So 30% was the rate taken. This time, it is different. We are saying 30% plus 7.5% penalty plus 7.5% Kisan surcharge. So a total of 45% is what they are supposed to pay. That is one. There is a limited window given for this particular IDS scheme, 1st June to 30th September. That is one. The second thing is I want to talk about is the uniform treatment for NPS and EPF and other schemes. Now, there are basically three types of schemes. One is superannuation fund scheme. The other is recognized provident fund, including EPF. And the third is NPS. The tax treatment for all three are different today. In case of superannuation fund, the employer's contribution up to 1 lakh is completely exempt at the time of withdrawal. So if the employer is only giving up to 1 lakh, then the entire thing is triple E, exempt, exempt, exempt. In case of recognized provident fund, it is without any limit. Employer as well as employee can contribute any amount and the entire thing is triple E. That means that even private individuals who are having a salary of 1 crore per month, they can join EPF, they can deduct 12 lakh rupees per month and the entire thing will be tax free for them when they withdraw. While in case of NPS, it was double ET, exempt, and tax at the time of withdrawal. We have tried to uniformize all these three schemes. So now what we are saying is, in case of all the three schemes, the contribution the contribution of employer would be limited to 1.5 crore. That is one. So that is a limit we are putting. The second thing we are saying is, in case of all the three, 40% of the corpus, when you withdraw at the time of retirement, it would be tax exempt. The remaining 60%, if you put it in annuity, again it is tax exempt. But if you want to take it home, in case of NPS, of course, there is a condition that minimum 40% you are supposed to put it in the annuity. That much you are supposed to convert it into annuity. So if you want to put only 40% in annuity and withdraw 20%, then you have to pay tax on 20%. But 40% will be tax exempt in case of NPS. We are giving this new regime for EPF, because EPF people have already deposited and they are expecting their income to be tax exempt at the time of withdrawal. So whatever is the existing corpus, we are not going to touch it. I want to clarify that. But from next year, if anybody, any rich employee also wants to contribute to EPF, his contribution of his employer will be only limited to 1.5% plus his own contribution, 1.5. And then the 40% only will be available as a tax exempt at the time of withdrawal. But this will apply only to new contribution made after 1/4/2016. This is what I want to make it clear. And of course, last thing is about the relief to small taxpayer, how much it is coming to, the quantitative figures of that. Well, we have given two reliefs to small individual taxpayers up to income of 5 lakh. One is the tax rebate is increased from 2,000 to 3,000, 2,000 to 5,000, which is a straight-away benefit of 3,000 rupees reduction in their taxable income, in their tax liability. The second benefit of rental set-off, deduction for rental, this thing. Now that comes to from 24,000 to 60,000, which means 36,000 rupees extra they can deduct from their income, and 10% of that, because all these people are in 10% slab, will be a benefit of 3,600 rupees. So in all, the small people will get a benefit of 6,600 rupees out of this dispensation which is set out. Thank you.
Secretary DFS, Mrs. Dugal.
Thank you, sir. Friends, in addition to what my colleagues have said, let me draw your attention to the focus on creating and strengthening the ecosystem for doing business, for bringing efficiencies, and for increasing the credit footprint that this budget brings. This includes the ease of exit for companies and financial institutions that are not viable any longer, or to support their revival. You're already familiar that the Insolvency and Banking Code is already in Parliament, and that covers the resolution as far as companies, LLPs, partnerships with unlimited liability, and individuals are concerned. This budget intends to bring in a fairly formidable agenda as far as resolution of financial firms are concerned, as far as illicit deposit-taking schemes are concerned, as far as strengthening of SARFAESI and the RDDB-FI, which is commonly known as the DRT Act, are concerned. It brings in certain ARC-related provisions which cover pass-through, which cover holding up to 100% by sponsors to bring in greater participation, which brings in non-institutional investors as well. Apart from all of this, we are looking at bank consolidation
and growth. And the last point I would say, of course, is that the JAM agenda has been really given a really great impetus with the Aadhaar bill, which means that the whole JAM agenda, not just today, but going forward, can really be, accelerated going forward.
I think the MOS, Mr. Jayant Sinha, will highlight one point.
Yes, I just wanted to highlight one point which has not come up so far in the discussions, but is very, very important for both higher education as well as for entrepreneurship and innovation, which is really the ability of 20 universities, 10 public and 10 private, to be placed in a new regulatory architecture which gives them the freedom and the independence to really work towards being world class. This, coupled with the fact that we have the higher education financing agency that we are also setting up, will give them, in addition, the resources that they require to truly be world class universities. This also is a game changing step that we brought forward in this budget.
Question. Yeah, we'll take some questions now. Let's start with 168. Sapna.
So there's a lot that's been spoken about consolidation in the banking sector. Apart from the fact, of course, that other quarters has a lot of expectation that the 25,000 crore, PSB recap might actually be stepped up. You have added a caveat there. So what's the game plan here in terms of consolidation? Because it's not an easy thing among the public sector space. And one quick question, sir, on the FRBM roadmap going forward. Committee will be looking into things. What do you have in mind as of now?
You see, as far as the consolidation agenda is concerned, as far as PSBs are concerned, the government has already said that it will bring down, in the long run, its equity. It's open to the idea of bringing it down to 52%. I made a specific reference in my speech to the IDBI, and that reference below 50% was in reference to the IDBI. I think the first and the immediate agenda is that we strengthen the banks. We strengthen them by recapitalization. What I have announced today is not the last word or the last amount as far as recapitalization is concerned. And therefore, be prepared, there will be something more which will happen. There is some amount which is a carry forward of the current year, which is still to be spent. And thereafter, we are willing to look at consolidation. Consolidation among subsidiaries, consolidation of subsidiaries with principal bank, consolidation of weak bank with strong bank, subject to that overall 52% discipline that we've laid down for ourselves. Now, as far as the FRBM is concerned, both the Finance Secretary and the Chief Economic Advisor have just explained that